Sodium, aluminium sulphate, hidden phosphates, and undisclosed heavy metal residues, all found in some of Britain's most trusted baking powder brands. That harmless white powder sitting in your cupboard right now, the one you've been spooning into cakes and scones for decades, could be quietly loading your body with aluminium compounds linked to bone loss, kidney damage, and cognitive decline. If this has been your go-to brand for 10, 20, 30 years, everything we're about to reveal has been building up in your system that entire time. Today we're breaking down 9 baking powder brands that fail to meet basic transparency and safety standards, including some that most British households consider reliable staples. Plus the 2 brands that actually tested clean and earned their place in your kitchen. Coming in at number 9, Asda Smart Price Baking Powder. The bright white packaging, the promise of identical results at a fraction of the cost. Asda's budget baking powder sits on millions of kitchen shelves across Britain because it costs almost nothing, pennies per tin. And for that price, you'd expect compromises on flavour or texture. What you wouldn't expect is a formulation loaded with sodium aluminium sulphate at concentrations higher than many premium alternatives. Asda provides virtually no transparency on ingredient sourcing, no third-party lab data, no country of origin for the raw phosphate compounds. Nothing. You're trusting a product with your family's Sunday roast Yorkshire puddings, and you can't even find out where the ingredients came from. The sodium content per teaspoon is quietly significant too. Not dramatic enough for a warning label, but enough to matter. For anyone taking daily blood pressure medication or families baking with their children every weekend, that hidden sodium is working against you with every batch. It accumulates. It doesn't announce itself. It just sits there in every scone, every pancake, every birthday cake you've made for the last 5 years. Asda could source aluminium-free alternatives. They could publish independent testing. They could offer transparency. They're one of Britain's largest retailers with billions in annual revenue. They have the power and the resources to do better. They choose the cheapest option instead. Open the tin. That faintly metallic, chalky smell. That's not freshness. That's industrial-grade raising agent doing the bare minimum. Stir it into batter and watch it fizz. Fast, aggressive, short-lived. That's not quality leavening. That's a cheap acid reacting too quickly because the formulation was built for cost, not performance. Your sponge rises fast and then collapses. Dense, heavy, disappointing, and somewhere in that flat, sad cake is a dose of aluminium your body never asked for. Pennies per tin. That's what Asda thinks your health is worth. If the cheapest brand cuts corners, surely the next budget option does better. It doesn't. At number 8, Sainsbury's Basics Baking Powder. The orange stripe, the no-nonsense label. Sainsbury's Basics range promises affordable kitchen essentials without compromising quality. Independent pantry analyses tell a different story. Sainsbury's Basics baking powder has been flagged for one of the highest aluminium-based acid concentrations per gram among UK supermarket own brands. Not the highest price, not the highest quality, the highest aluminium. That's what you're getting for your savings. Aluminium doesn't just pass through your body harmlessly. Your kidneys have to filter it out. Every teaspoon, every bake, every time you reach for that orange striped tin, your kidneys work a little harder. For anyone over 50, renal filtration rate naturally declines with age. That's not a disease, that's biology. But adding unnecessary aluminium to a system already slowing down is like asking a tired engine to haul extra weight uphill. It doesn't break immediately. It wears down faster, and the damage is invisible until a blood test catches what your body has been quietly enduring for years. Sainsbury's doesn't publish third-party testing data on aluminium residual levels. They don't tell you which acid compounds they use or where they come from. The label says baking powder. The ingredients list reads like a chemistry exam. And the one thing you actually need to know, how much aluminium per serving, is nowhere to be found. Scoop it out of the tin. Feel the texture. Powdery, almost silky, unnervingly. Fine. That superfine grind isn't a quality indicator, it's a sign of heavy processing, stripping away complexity and leaving behind concentrated chemical raising agents. Mix it into your flour, that faint acrid note underneath the starch, that's the aluminium compound doing its job. Sainsbury's calls it basics. Your kidneys call it overtime. Think moving up to another budget chain fixes the problem? Think again. Number 7, Morrisons Savers Baking Powder. Dependable store cupboard staples trusted by home bakers across Britain. That's the promise. Morrisons Savers has built a reputation on reliability. The tin looks familiar, the price feels right, and for years millions of British households have reached for it without a second thought. But the formulation relies on sodium aluminium sulphate as a primary acid. The same cheap compound found in the worst budget brands. And Morrisons provides zero third-party testing data on heavy metal residual levels. None. Not a single published report. Not a single independent verification. Just trust us, printed on a tin that costs less than a newspaper. Here's what that means in your body. Elevated aluminium exposure over time has been associated with bone density loss. Not overnight, not dramatically, slowly, invisibly, over years of weekly baking. For anyone already managing osteoporosis risk or families where grandparents bake regularly with grandchildren, that's compounded damage hiding inside a harmless-looking kitchen staple. The science isn't settled on every mechanism, but the pattern is clear enough that multiple health bodies have flagged dietary aluminium as a concern worth monitoring. Morrisons' response to that concern is silence. Not a statement, not a reformulation plan, not even a footnote on their website, just silence and continued sales. Pick up the tin, shake it, listen to that dense, heavy, settling sound. That's not the light, airy powder of a quality-raising agent. That's a compacted industrial product designed to sit on shelves for months without degrading. Open it and smell that flat, mineral tang. There's nothing fresh about it. There's nothing artisan about it. There's nothing safe about it just because it's familiar. Dependable, Morrisons says. Dependable at delivering aluminium to your bones, maybe. You've seen 3 budget brands fail. Surely the biggest supermarket in Britain holds itself to a higher standard. Number 6. Tesco Everyday Value Baking Powder. Tesco's budget line is one of the most purchased baking powders in UK households. Millions of tins sold every year. Millions of families reaching for it without hesitation. And a formulation that includes both aluminium-based raising agents and a notable sodium content per serving that Tesco doesn't prominently display on the label. Not hidden exactly, but buried in small print on the back of a tin most people never flip over. The aluminium is expected at this price point. Depressing, but expected. The sodium is the quieter danger for anyone managing hypertension or taking ACE inhibitors, or simply watching their salt intake because their doctor told them to. Tesco's baking powder is adding to the problem without telling you clearly. A teaspoon here, a tablespoon there. It adds up across every bake. Fluid retention, elevated blood pressure readings, and your medication working harder to compensate for something you didn't even know you were consuming. Open the tin and look at the colour, that bright, almost aggressive white. Natural baking powder shouldn't look like bleached paper. That stark whiteness is a visual signature of heavy chemical processing, aesthetic purity, masking, compositional compromise. Stir it into wet ingredients and watch the reaction. Violent, fast, then gone. The bubbles are large and uneven. That's not controlled leavening. That's a cheap acid dumping its energy all at once because the formulation has no finesse. Your cake rises unevenly, cracks on top, sinks in the middle. Tesco could reformulate tomorrow. They're the biggest grocery retailer in Britain. They have the supply chain, the buying power, the resources. They choose not to, because aluminium-based acid is cheaper and your blood pressure isn't their problem. Everyday value. Every day, a little more sodium you didn't ask for. Drop a comment if Tesco. Everyday value is sitting in your kitchen right now. Let's see how many of us have been baking with this. If 4 supermarket brands have failed, at least. The continental discount brands offer something different. They don't. Number 5. Lidl Bellbake Baking Powder. The sleek packaging, the continental styling, the implicit promise that German engineering applies to baking ingredients too. Lidl's Bellbake range is marketed as quality at discount prices. Premium styled labels, clean design, everything about it whispers sophistication. Then consumer testing exposed the reality. Inconsistent potency between batches. One tin raises your sponge beautifully. The next tin produces a flat, dense disaster. Same brand, same packaging, different results. That's not quality control. That's a lottery. And the aluminium compound content is not clearly differentiated from cheaper formulations despite all that premium style packaging. You're paying for design, not chemistry, but the inconsistency is where the real health risk hides. When your bake falls flat, what do? You compensate. More sugar to mask the heavy texture, more butter to add moisture, more of everything to fix a problem that shouldn't exist. For anyone managing diabetes or families watching blood glucose levels, that compensation cycle is dangerous. You're not just eating a failed cake, you're eating a failed cake with extra sugar because the baking powder didn't do its job. And you're doing it repeatedly because inconsistency means you never know which batch will work. 1 week perfect, the next week flat. The week after that, you've added 30 grams of extra sugar without even realizing the baking powder is the problem. Lidl could fix this with basic batch testing protocols, standardized acid concentrations, published quality metrics. They don't, because consistency costs money and the Bellbake label does the selling regardless. Tear open a sachet, pour it into your palm. Notice how the texture varies, sometimes grainy, sometimes powdery. That inconsistency you can feel with your fingers is the same inconsistency happening inside your batter. Continental quality, the packaging says. Continental marketing, the lab results say. If this is helping you make safer choices at the supermarket, hit subscribe. It's free and it means you'll never miss these investigations. See the pattern forming? Budget brands cut corners. Continental brands hide behind design. So where does that leave the other discounters? Let's find out. Number 4, Aldi Everyday Essentials Baking Powder. Aldi's baking powder is a top seller. No frills, no pretense, just a cheap tin that does the job, except doing the job means using sodium aluminium sulphate without offering an aluminium-free alternative anywhere in the entire Aldi range. Not a single option. If you shop at Aldi, you get aluminium. That's it. No choice, no alternative, no escape. And they disclose no country of origin for their raw phosphate ingredients. Phosphate is a critical component. Where it comes from matters because mining conditions, processing standards, and contamination risks vary wildly between sources. Some phosphate sources carry higher levels of cadmium and other heavy metals depending on the geological origin of the rock. Aldi doesn't tell you. For anyone with early-stage chronic kidney disease, and millions of Britons over 50 have it without knowing, excess dietary phosphate accelerates renal deterioration. It disrupts calcium-phosphorus balance, it makes existing kidney damage worse, and it's hiding in a tin that costs 70 pence. Your kidneys are filtering every teaspoon, every Victoria sponge, every batch of scones. Every time your grandchildren ask you to bake their favourite cake, Aldi's baking powder adds to the load your kidneys are already struggling to manage. Crack open the tin and sniff that sharp, almost sour chemical note underneath the starch. That's not the clean smell of bicarbonate of soda. That's synthetic phosphate and aluminium sulphate doing what cheap chemistry does. Mix it with milk and watch the reaction. Aggressive, foamy, unstable. The bubbles pop before they can do their job. Your batter loses volume before it even reaches the oven. No frills reliability, Aldi promises. No frills damage to organs you can't replace. The ingredients deliver 70 pence per tin. That's what Aldi charges for the privilege of poisoning your kidneys in silence. That's 6 brands down. 6 brands you've probably bought this year. It gets worse. Number 3, Supercook Baking Powder. The legacy brand. The familiar label your mother used. The tin that's been sitting on British supermarket shelves for decades. Supercook isn't a discount brand. It isn't a supermarket-owned label. It's a household name. A brand people choose because their parents chose it, because it feels like tradition, because it must be safe if it's been around this long. It isn't. Despite decades on shelves, Supercook's formulation still relies on aluminium-based acids. While competitors have publicly moved toward aluminium-free alternatives, Supercook has made no commitment to reformulate. No announcement, no timeline, no acknowledgement that the market has shifted and consumers are asking questions. They're coasting on heritage while the science moves on without them. For anyone on statin medications, and millions of Britons over 50 take them daily. The additional metabolic processing burden of aluminium compounds places unnecessary strain on a liver already working overtime to process medication. Statins are processed by the liver. Aluminium compounds are processed by the liver. Adding one on top of the other isn't dangerous in a single dose. It's dangerous over years of daily baking, weekly scones, monthly birthday cakes. The cumulative load doesn't care about your loyalty to the brand. It just accumulates. Open the tin and look. Same design it's had for years, same formulation it's had for years, same aluminium it's had for years. Smell it, that stale, flat, almost dusty quality. There's nothing vibrant about it. Nothing that suggests care or craftsmanship, just an industrial raising agent wearing the clothes of a heritage brand. Tradition isn't a safety guarantee, familiarity isn't a lab test. And your mother's trust in this brand doesn't mean the brand deserves yours. Supercook could reformulate tomorrow. Cream of tartar and bicarbonate of soda cost marginally more. The technology exists, the alternatives are proven. They just don't bother because you keep buying it. Because your mother did. Three generations of trust. 0 generations of transparency. This next one has a loyal following that swears by it. What the ingredient list reveals is a different story. Number 2, Dr. Oetker baking powder. German precision. The trusted name. The brand synonymous with perfect bakes across Europe. Dr. Oetker doesn't just sell baking powder. They sell confidence, reliability, the reassurance that comes with over a century of heritage. And they charge accordingly. But their standard UK baking powder sachets contain disodium diphosphate and sodium aluminium sulphate, the same acids as the budget brands, the same aluminium as the 70p Aldi tin, the same compounds as every supermarket own label on this list. Dr. Oetker has faced criticism for marketing identical formulations as premium, despite using the same acid bases as competitors charging half the price. You're paying for the logo, not the chemistry, not the safety, not the quality, just the logo. But the phosphate content is where Dr. Oetker becomes genuinely dangerous. Excess dietary phosphate is associated with arterial calcification. Your arteries harden, they lose flexibility. Blood flow is compromised. For seniors managing cardiovascular conditions or anyone with a family history of heart disease, that phosphate isn't just a baking ingredient. It's a cardiovascular risk factor hiding in a sachet with a trusted German name on it. Tear open a sachet. That puff of fine white dust that rises into the air. You're breathing it in before you even bake with it. That powder settles on your worktop, your hands, your mixing bowl. It's aluminium sulphate and synthetic phosphate in aerosolized form. Mix it into your dough and taste the raw batter. That faintly bitter chemical undertone beneath the flour and sugar. That's not wheat. That's not butter. That's industrial raising agent doing what a 100-year-old formula was never updated to improve. German precision. The label promises. German precision at delivering the same aluminium every budget brand already gives you, just in prettier packaging at twice the price. The worst brand you've probably never questioned. Number 1, McKenzie's baking powder. You might not recognize the name immediately. McKenzie's isn't in every supermarket. It sits in specialty shops, delicatessens, the kind of independent stores where people go specifically because they want something better than the mass market options. It carries a heritage reputation imported from Australia. It feels premium. It feels curated. It feels like the smart choice for discerning bakers who've done their research. It's the most dangerous baking powder on this list. McKenzie's formulation contains one of the highest aluminium concentrations per gram of any baking powder available in UK retail. Not slightly higher, not marginally elevated, one of the highest on the market by a significant margin. And here's what should alarm every consumer who's ever picked this tin off a specialty shelf. McKenzie's provides no EU or UK Food Standards Agency compliance data on its British sold packaging. No regulatory verification, no safety certification visible to the buyer. Nothing that proves this product has been evaluated by any British authority. You're importing a product from the other side of the world, paying a premium for the privilege, and receiving less safety documentation than the cheapest supermarket own brand offers. For anyone already experiencing cognitive changes or families with elderly relatives showing early signs of memory loss, the aluminium concentration in McKenzie's is deeply concerning. Ongoing research continues to investigate aluminium accumulation in brain tissue and its potential connection to neurodegenerative conditions. The science is evolving. The debate is active. But what isn't debatable is that McKenzie's delivers more aluminium per gram than virtually any competitor and tells you less about its safety than any of them. Open the tin and examine the powder, coarser than British brands, a faintly yellow tinge beneath the white. That's not purity. That's a different processing standard from a different regulatory environment being sold without adaptation to British safety norms. The specialty shops trust it because it's imported. The consumers trust it because it's expensive. Neither trust is earned, neither trust is verified. Heritage from Australia, aluminium for Britain, and not a single document proving it's safe for either. What's the worst baking experience you've ever had with a budget brand? Drop it below. I want to hear your stories, and if you've already switched to an aluminium-free brand, tell us which one. 9 brands, 9 formulations hiding aluminium, excess sodium, and undisclosed phosphates behind familiar labels and friendly packaging. But don't give up on baking. 2 brands prove it's still possible to raise a perfect sponge without raising your health risks. Check your cupboard right now. If any of those 9 brands are in there, here is exactly what to replace them with. Safe pick number 1, Dove's Farm baking powder. Open a tin of Dove's Farm and the difference hits you immediately. No metallic tang, no chemical sharpness, just a clean, faintly earthy smell that tells you something real is inside. Dove's Farm uses a completely aluminium-free formula. No sodium aluminium sulphate, no synthetic phosphate acids, just cream of tartar and bicarbonate of soda. 2 ingredients. That's it. The simplicity is the point. Cream of tartar is a natural byproduct of winemaking. Bicarbonate of soda is one of the oldest, safest raising agents in culinary history. Together, they produce reliable, consistent, gentle leavening that doesn't assault your batter with aggressive chemical reactions. Your sponge rises evenly. The crumb is light and open. The texture is what baking is supposed to feel like. But Dove's Farm doesn't stop at the formula. They hold full Soil Association organic certification, non-GM verified. Every ingredient is traceable to audited European suppliers. You can follow the supply chain from your kitchen back to the source. Try doing that with Aldi or Tesco. For anyone on blood pressure medication, Dove's Farm eliminates the hidden sodium problem completely. For anyone with kidney concerns, no aluminium means no extra burden on your filtration system. No synthetic phosphates means no disruption to your calcium balance. For anyone managing bone health, no compounds associated with density loss. It costs a little more than the budget brands, £1 or £2 extra per tin. That's the price of knowing exactly what you're putting into every cake, every scone, every batch of biscuits you bake for your family. Dove's Farm proves that clean baking powder isn't a luxury. It's a choice the industry could make tomorrow if they cared enough to try. We're not done yet. The number 2 safe pick is a brand that strips baking powder down to its absolute purest form. Safe pick number 2, Steenbergs. Organic baking powder. 2 ingredients, that's all Steenbergs uses. Bicarbonate of soda and cream of tartar, both organically sourced. No aluminium, no phosphates, no anti-caking agents, no fillers, no hidden compounds, nothing that needs a chemistry degree to pronounce, nothing that your body has to work overtime to process. The brand holds full Soil Association organic certification and publishes complete batch traceability. Every tin can be tracked back to its source ingredients. Every batch is documented. Every claim is verifiable. In a market where most brands hide behind vague labels and legal minimums, Steenbergs volunteers information before you even ask for it. The sodium content per teaspoon is among the lowest on the entire UK market. For anyone managing diabetes, kidney health, or cardiovascular conditions, the clean 2-ingredient formula eliminates every hidden risk found in conventional baking powders. No aluminium interfering with bone density, no excess sodium fighting your blood pressure medication. No synthetic phosphates stressing your kidneys or hardening your arteries. Spoon it out and feel the texture. Slightly coarser than the industrial brands, less processed, more honest. Mix it into your flour and notice the reaction. Gentle, controlled, steady. The bubbles are fine and uniform. Your batter holds its volume. Your cake rises patiently and stays risen. That's what proper leavening looks like. It doesn't need aggression. It needs chemistry that works with your recipe instead of against your body. Steenbergs costs roughly the same as Dr. Oetker. The same price, except one gives you aluminium and phosphates wrapped in German heritage marketing. The other gives you 2 organic ingredients and complete transparency. The choice isn't complicated. Your cupboard deserves better than what 9 brands on this list have been giving you. 9 brands exposed, 2 clean alternatives waiting. Your next bake deserves better. Subscribe now. And if you're watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.